I have no idea what I'm supposed to do when I like start a video like this, so I'm just gonna kinda just jump right into it because I have no idea what I'm fucking doing. Anyways, welcome back to whatever the fuck this is, and this is the second time that I have tried to make a YouTube channel, and I'm actually going to try and stick with it this time because this time I've been like really excited and I've actually like in a new location, and I will see how this works. So today I am going to talk about my reading year in review for 2016. So 2016 was a huge year for me, not only like in a reading year, but just like in a year in general. Like a whole lot of shit happened. Most importantly, I moved out of my parents' house and 1,600 miles away, which was huge. Now, so I've been here for a few months and I love it. Anyways, so my reading year in review, I read 111 books in 2016, which is 21 more books than my Goodreads reading goal, so that was just like the best shit ever to have that feeling that I actually succeeded and exceeded my reading goal for 2016, and it was like the best feeling ever. So I'm going to talk about my top 10 books in 2016, and my top 10 books were really fucking hard. It was really hard to go from 111 to 10 books, but so I decided to make a list of the 10 books that influenced me or like struck me, like the ones that left me wanting more. These books are in no particular order because you can't make me choose. You can't make me list infinite like which one was the best book that I read in 2016. So essentially this list is from January to December. So like the first book that I read in 2016 that I liked the most, that influenced me the most, that left me wanting more the most, to the one that I read in December. That's that. So the first book, and probably the only book I actually own a physical copy of, is The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakavic. Or should I say just this entire fucking series. I initially did not want to read this series because I had a lot of friends on Tumblr who were talking about it, and I'm not a fan of sports, and let me tell you, bish, you do not have to be a fan of sports to love this book. This is a very character-driven series, and it was amazing. It literally left me shook. Like, January was a pretty intense reading month for me last year, and this was such a strong start to my reading year. The second book that is on my list is The Abyss Surrounds Us by Emily Skripsky. I probably pronounced her name very wrong, and I am so sorry, Emily. I am the worst. This book I anticipated very hard because I knew that it had lesbian protagonists, and as a queer girl, that shit is my jam. Like, I am always trying to find books with happy endings for queer protagonists, and this had sea monsters and pirates, so this was right up my fucking alley. 5 out of 5 stars. I can't wait for the sequel in February. I think it's coming out in February. I'm so excited. Please read this book. The third book / book series that I read this year that left me absolutely made me lose my fucking mind was the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I spend a lot of time by myself in my job, so I can listen to audiobooks when I'm working all the time. So a lot of the books that I read this year were actually audiobooks because I was at work a lot and that was the only way for me to read, and that's a good way for me to pass the time. And the Mistborn books, like, I'd been wanting to read them for a while until my friend started yelling at me about them because she's like, you need to read these books. But they were huge, and so it was kind of daunting to pick them up, and so I got the audiobook for the first one, and let me tell you, by the end of it, it was so good. The world building, the characters, everything about it was just absolutely amazing. And I read all 3 of the initial trilogy, and then I read the second. I read the first 3 books in the second Mistborn series, and I just gotta tell you, I was an emotional fucking wreck for like 4 months because of these books. I could not handle what was going on with these books because they were just too fucking much for me to handle. I just couldn't deal with it. And the fourth book on my list is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. Like, I was hoping that I wouldn't be underwhelmed by all the hype, and let me tell you, I wasn't disappointed. It was beautiful and I absolutely loved it. Like, words cannot describe how much I love this book. It changed me. It changed me so much. It was just so fantastic, and I just want everyone to read it. And the fifth book that I have on my list this year is called Silver Wings by H.P. Munro. It does feature lesbian protagonists, which is, you know, like I said, my shit, my jam, my lifeblood. The only reason I get up in the morning is because of this fucking book. So it is a historical fiction. It is set during World War II, and it's been a couple months since I read this, so I don't really remember what the organization was called, but essentially female pilots running missions, like flying missions and shit in the US during World War II, and it was incredible. It honest to God changed my life. Like, I finished it and I immediately wanted to start it over again and read it again because I just loved it that much. And the sixth book in my list of top books of 2016 is The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie-Sue Hitchcock. This book was recommended to me by one of my friends, and she and I have a shared love for The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, which is honest to fuck one of my favorite books of all time. And so I'm always trying to find books with that sense of whimsy. Like, that whole setup in that book, it just gets me. And so she recommended me this book because she said it kind of reminded me of The Scorpio Races. I think you might like it. 5 out of 5 stars. It was lovely. It follows different people from different backgrounds in Alaska during the 1980s, and it's honestly just, it was beautiful. I can't deal. I need to reread it. I really do. And the seventh book in my list is As I Descended by Robin Talley, and this is a Macbeth retelling in a boarding school on the East Coast with naturally lesbian protagonists. Let me tell you, this shit fucked me up. I just love Macbeth, and so a lesbian boarding school retelling of Macbeth was right up my fucking alley. And Robin Talley always does a really good job with queer protagonists, and I absolutely adore all of her books that I have read, which is, I've read like almost all her books, I think. And this one though, this one is my favorite. And the eighth book of the year was A Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton, and this book was incredible. Like, it was a fantasy, but it was like a Middle East Western kind of thing, and it was honestly just amazing. Like, I'm always searching for good desert world fantasy books, so this shit was right up my alley, and I can't wait for the sequel to come out. I think it's coming out sometime this year, and yes, I can't wait. The eighth book on my list is Black Iris by Elliot Wake. This book, if you've read this book, you know how I feel. This book, I don't even know how to sum up how I feel about this book. It was like nothing I've ever read before, and I picked it up because the main character, the protagonist, is bisexual, and 20 pages in, I was like, this book is already going to be one of my top 10 favorite books of all time. Like, of all time. By the time I finished it, I felt like, this book, it left me fucked. Thoroughly fucked. It was bad, like, in a good way though, like, in a totally good way. And the last book that I read in 2016 that left me shook was On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Duvais. Like, I had read one of her other books, and Otherbound, and and it was incredible, and I absolutely loved it. And that was actually on like my special mentions. Like, that was one of my favorite books of 2016, but it didn't quite make this list. This book was about the end of the world, essentially. Like, a meteorite comes and hits Earth and everyone is either gone to space or they have gone into shelters to deal with the aftermath because they couldn't afford to go to space. And the protagonist of this book is a biracial autistic girl who ends up on a spaceship that hasn't left Earth yet. And so after the meteorite hits, she's trying to figure out if the spaceship will take her on as a passenger, like if she has something to give. And so she's struggling a lot with her autism because she's afraid that because she's autistic, they will not let her go with them to space. And honestly, it was really well written, and you don't read a lot of books with autistic characters, and I'm pretty sure the author is autistic too, so like she was able to give what I'm hoping and what I'm assuming is a good perspective on a narrative by an autistic person. So yes, those are the books that I read in 2016 that left me shook. Anyways, so that's it for my top 10 books of 2016 out of the 111 books that I read this year. It was an amazing reading year, and I'm hoping to exceed 111 this year, 2017. My Goodreads reading goal is 120, and I've already read 2, and I'm almost finished with my 3rd. Thank God for audiobooks. So I am actually going to continue to make videos for this channel. So yeah, welcome to my channel. I'll probably make another video sometime this week, or maybe even today. Maybe right after I finish making this one, I'll make another one.